Hi, today we're going to be looking at how to create segues within an app with multiple view controllers. So let's get started here. So I'm going to build a single view app, press next, and I'm going to call this Segue Sample App. And this is all good. Let's press next. We're going to save it to maybe the desktop, and we're going to press create. Perfect. I'm going to go to my main.storyboard. And the first thing I want to do here is add a button that will act as as an action from one portion to the other. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and call this button move or something along those lines. Okay, great. So I've got a button here. The next thing I want to do is I want to actually find view controller, and it's all the way up top. So view controller is essentially just another view controller. We're already built with one. I'm going to have two more here, and here I'm following this example that's from the textbook, the app development for Swift from Apple, and this is the example from the textbook that they have. And essentially we're going to make like a traffic light, red, green, yellow kind of thing. So let's go ahead and change the background of the first one to green, the background of the second one to a yellow, and the background of the third one to a red. Okay, great. So we've got a button here. Let me go ahead and center this button just for aesthetic's sake. There we go. Okay, well, how do you build a segue? Well, you right click or control click and you drag just like you're creating an outlet or action, but instead of dragging to the code to your .swift file, you're dragging to another view controller. Once you let go, you'll see action segues, and there's a few types of action segues. We're going to go ahead and press show. Okay, and now we've created a segue between this view controller and this view controller. I'm going to go ahead and add another button, and let's put this in the center. I'm going to call this move to yellow, just so that we know. I'm going to call this move to red. Perfect. And we're going to create another segue from this button to that button, and we're going to say show as well. And that's pretty much it. Now, the thing that I do want you to remember is this. What's happening here is these little circular things in the middle. These are these will you could set these up, and we'll set that up with a navigation controller later. In fact, if you press on it, you could actually customize the segue and what it looks like in the attribute inspector. So we'll do that later. But for now, let's go ahead and simulate or run this app on an iPhone 8 and see what this app looks like. So just give it a sec. Okay, so I've got the simulator here, it's still running. Give it a second. Okay, and this is our app right here. Okay, so we've got, to begin with, green and a button that says move to yellow. If we click on this, it'll segue to yellow and it'll segue to red, and we're stuck. Okay, and now of course I could go ahead and quit this, and I'll show you what it looks like again. There we go. Move to green, move to yellow, move to red, and we'll get stuck again. Okay, so what's next? Okay, so what's next that we have to do is we create what we call an unwind segue. Let me just move this out of the way here. And to create an unwind segue, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create a button here that'll unwind. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to call this exit. Okay. And to create an unwind segue, it's a little different. You're actually going to go ahead and create a function. And you've created these functions before using using a simple right click and dragging, except this one you're actually going to write. And we're not actually going to put anything in there. So you type in at IB action, you've seen this function, and you can call the function anything you like. So I'm going to call it, it's an unwind function. I could call it unwind to unwind to whatever. It doesn't matter. We don't need any code here. In terms of parameters, we're going to delete everything here. The only thing that we need to keep is this code right here, is that it's going to unwind to a type UI storyboard segue. Okay, so once we're done with this, we're going to leave this. We're going to go back to main.storyboard. And what's going to happen is this. We're going to take this button and we're going to right click, okay, and we're going to drag the arrow to this exit button right here. So once you let go here, you'll actually see all your unwind segues that are available. Well, we have one called unwind to whatever, because that's what I called it right here. There we go. If we go back here and I call it whatever something, just changing its name, you'll see that if I go back to main.storyboard and I go to the exit again, it's called unwind to whatever something, right? So it's whatever you call your function, it'll show right here. And you could go ahead and make that connection. And we've made this connection right here, and I don't know if you've noticed, but an exit popped up here. And now if you go ahead and simulate the app, just give it a second here. Okay, so we're gonna go move to yellow, move to red, and now there's a button called exit. If we click exit, it goes back to green. Think of these three view controllers as layers on top of each other. So when you're moving green to yellow, you're actually putting yellow on top of the green layer and then the red on top of the yellow layer, and think of it as stacked cards. So when we actually dismiss or exit or unwind, what we've done is we've taken all the stack of cards off and we unwind to the root view controller. That's how I want you to look at this. Okay, so next up we're gonna put some navigation controllers on here. Now, with the navigation controller, you might be tempted to go navigation controller and add a navigation controller view controller, which has the navigation controller built in, but we don't want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. In fact, we want to build a navigation controller that's embedded in the current view controllers that we have. So navigation controllers are these top things at the top that makes you go from right to left to the next scene. So to do that, we're going to go into editor, we're going to go into embed in, we're going to click navigation controller, and well, that's not good. You want to select your root first and then do embed in navigation controller. That way your navigation controller is set to the root, and in this case it's my green. And now you've noticed that there's like this halo bar at the very top, and it's created this navigation bar and it's and set this back button automatically to the next two bars. So let's go ahead and build this app and see what it looks like. Okay, so now I've got this navigation bar. I could move to the next one and I could go back, right? I could always go back, right? So this is a really cool way of doing it if you want to actually go back and forth, just like in the settings app, as opposed to just dismissing something. Okay, next up we're gonna customize the navigation bar. Before I do that, I wanna talk about this thing right here that you could toggle on and off, and this is called the document outline. And the document outline essentially shows you your whole app, your whole storyboard. So if I click on view controller scene, the first one, you'll see that the green one is selected. Next one, it's the yellow. Third one, it's the red. And if I select this one, it's the last one that I've put, which is the navigation controller. So let me go ahead and go to the first one. And inside of here, you'll see I have everything like shown here. And inside here, you'll see if I select view controller, it'll select the actual view controller, and then the actual view, the safe area that Apple has set, the move to yellow button. So essentially whatever is on your view, you'll see. If you had a whole bunch of buttons and labels, you'll see all of them right here. What's really cool is you see this thing called navigation controller, and that's what we added earlier. And the navigation controller, if you have it selected and click on the attributes button right here, you could actually change some stuff. So I want you to keep your eyes on something. You've got back here, you've got back here. But as soon as I put a title for the navigation, so I'm going to call it, I don't know, green space. As soon as I do that, what happens is this is called green space, and this is no longer called back. This is called green space now. Okay, so that's pretty cool. And this is obviously called green space as well. Now, if I don't want this to be called green space, I want to say go back or something like that, I could actually customize the back button to whatever I want. So this will stay as green space, but this will say go back. So I'm just gonna actually erase that and leave it as the name of the previous title. Now obviously the yellow and the red do not have titles, and to get these titles we want something called a navigation item. And if we add a navigation item, we get the title right here, and we add the title. We're gonna call this yellow space, and we're gonna call this red space. You guessed it. Fantastic. Okay, but we also want this like forward button as well. We're not going to use these buttons that we've created. We want something here that'll take us from one page to another. So that's called a bar button item. So if you just type in bar button item, and this will snap into one of two places, the right or the left. So we're going to put one right here, and we're going to call it go to yellow. I'm just going to say to yellow, and we're going to add another one. We're going to say to red. Okay, fantastic. So if we go ahead and simulate the app now, run it, build the app, our app looks, I mean, we could use this, but we could also use this. Oh, of course, we didn't make a connection here. Silly me. So let's go back here. Let's stop this. And to make a connection, again, you right click and you make a connection right here. We're going to go show, and we're going to make another connection. We're going to go show. So we're going to go ahead and build this. And now we could actually use this to go back and forth. Pretty cool, right? Awesome. Okay, so what we're finally going to do is we're going to add one last thing here, a last button that will exit the whole thing. So we're going to go ahead and call it exit. Now you might be tempted to do this. You might be tempted to control click and make a connection here and say show, and it'll make a connection just like that. In fact, if you build the app, you'll think that it's working. So we start at green, and we press to yellow, and we'll go to yellow, and we go to red, it'll go to red, and if we press exit, it should go to green. I want you to pay attention at the way the slides, the transitions have been made, the segues. So green to yellow, look at which side it's going. Green to red, and if I go back, it's this slide. But if I go exit, it's going to go left to right again. So what's happening here is actually we're putting a stack over a stack over a stack. We're putting a card over a card. So now I've got red, I've put green on top, then yellow, then red, then green, then yellow, then red, and now my stack is getting really, really big. This is not good. We don't want to transition back to green, we want to unwind. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop the simulator here. We're going to stop the simulator, and we're going to fix this. Now, the first thing you're going to say is, oh, where are the bars? They've disappeared. Well, that's why they've disappeared, because we've added this incorrect transition. So we need to select it. It's right here. And we need to go ahead and delete it. Just press delete on your keyboard, and your bars are back. So instead of making that transition, what we're going to do is we're going to control click, and we're going to take it to the exit button, and we're going to choose this unwind to whatever something that we've created earlier. Now this is the correct way of doing it. Now if we build the app, you'll see what it looks like. So green to yellow to red, And now when we exit, look at the transition. It goes back all the way to green. So let's do that again. Green, if we press to yellow, it goes left to right, and then to red, left to right. If we go exit, it goes right to left and all the way back to green. And that's the proper way of doing it. Okay, thank you for watching this first part.